Welcome, David. Today we're speaking with David Evans of Softchalk. He's going to give us a presentation of how this design tool is helping instructional designers across the nation. So, David, very much welcome you to this presentation. Very much appreciate you being with us. And I want to ask you a little bit about yourself, if you introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about Softchalk.
Okay, well, thank you, and thanks for giving us the chance to talk to everybody. I'm David Evans. I'm one of the owners, founders, creators of the Softchalk Create program. Softchalk itself as a company, has been around for about 13 years. We started with the idea that there was no software available for instructors or designers to create educational content that was actually designed for educators. At the time, there were Adobe products. There was also a Microsoft product that allowed you to create web pages, but it wasn't specifically designed for an educator. So what we did is we came together and created the Softchalk Create program, which at the time was called Lesson Builder because we thought it allowed people to build lessons. That's basically how we started, and we've gone and advanced the program to have quite a lot of we think, very good educational tools to allow designers or regular teachers to take content that they already have and know about and easily make it into an interactive lesson.
That sounds
Now,
wonderful. And full disclosure, I've been using SoftChalk for 6 or 7 years myself, and have had a lot of good fortune in the designing lessons. I also have the good fortune of being one of the designers of the challenge, the annual challenge lesson, a contest that SoftChalk puts on, and very much enjoy it. Gives me a peek at what very creative people throughout the nation are doing in creating lessons, and I learned from that. Uh, David, tell us a little bit. Now, it's a big question, but tell us a little bit about the advantages to an instructional designer in using SoftChalk.
the advantage for a designer is our program itself is very easy to use. It's very flexible. It's not regimented in you have to do A, B, C, and D because all designers may have their own thoughts. But it's a very simple program to start using. And I think that's the biggest advantage of using our program. Now, when I start looking at the Softchalk Cloud, and another advantage, and the Softchalk Create, the advantage of using our program is you can create content once and use it in a multiple LMSs or a variety of instances. So what I like to tell people is you can create your content once and use it online if you would like. You can use it in a classroom if you would like. And in the future, probably in the summer, you'll also be able to create an electronic book from the content that you create.
Okay, so those two big things there that talk about a little bit, break them apart, the cloud, as well as the EPUB updates coming in the summer. Again, I have enjoyed very much using this material, and I have to say that the first time I used it and put it in place, I teach on eCollege's platform, that it saved me so much time. I kind of joke around that I was able to upload it and go watch my television show because I had so much extra time on my hand after using it. But tell us a little bit about using it on the cloud, a little bit more. Now, I will give it an example that I am currently collaborating with a colleague where I was confined in the past to my own computer where SoftShock was stored. I now can go with my colleague anywhere and update our lessons. We teach some classes together on any computer. That's the biggest advantage that I've seen, that time saving and also collaborating this way. Are there others that you can think of, David?
Oh, there are lots of advantages for using the Softchalk Cloud. We developed or introduced the Softchalk Cloud, well, I guess about 3 years ago. And one of the advantages, as you mentioned, is collaboration. So all you have to do is put or create a folder and then share the contents of the folder. Now, there are lots of degrees of sharing that come to people's mind. In our concept, when you share a folder, you're actually giving the people that you are sharing that folder with complete control and rights over whatever you decide to put into the folder itself. That means they can edit your content. Now, it's really nice. They have complete control over the editing, but also in the cloud, we are able to store revisions of the content. So if someone does something and you really don't like what they've done, then you can go easily back to a previous revision. Now, that's one of the advantages of using the cloud. We keep a revision history. With the desktop version, well, desktop programs, it's up to you to decide when you want to save it as revision 1, revision 2, revision 3. With the cloud, we do it for you. Now, another advantage of using the Softchalk cloud is each each lesson generates a series of sharing links, I'll call them. Now, these links are only to share the view of the content and not edit the content. But each link has its own design purpose. There's a hyperlink that people can view the content if they would like. You can send them the hyperlink and away you go. There's also an embed code that can go into any HTML web page, so you can actually have your own home page and then embed a lesson inside of that home page. And finally, there's a really important link called the Learning Tool Interoperability Link, or an LTI link. This is what most learning management systems are now starting to use in place of SCORM for compatibility with other software. SCORM was supposedly an old standard that really hadn't been used well by most learning management systems. And what SCORM stood for was just shareable content. We can go a little bit further than that, but that's the basic idea. Most LMSs just did a very, very brief, okay, you can bring in content, and they didn't go very far with it. And that's because they had to create tools that would use the content. With the Learning Tool Interoperability link, the tools reside with the link provider, and that would be us and other companies. Now, that gives us more flexibility in what we can then do with the content that's stored on our cloud. Now, the advantage for people who use it, well, there's many. First of all you're putting into your learning management system is a link. Most students won't even notice that they've left the learning management system when they click on the link that from the LMS. Now that gives several really nice things. First, it's quicker to put the content into an LMS because you're not trying to load it in there. Second, when you change from one LMS to the next, there's no content that you're going to lose because you've just put a link in it. I like to think of an LMS kind of like a black hole of content. It goes in, okay, but when you try to pull it back out, it kind of breaks apart. Well, by just putting in a link, there's nothing to break. Next, and finally, probably the biggest reason for this, using the link as opposed to stuffing content into an LMS, is when you find your inevitable typo, you can just go into the Softchalk cloud, start the program, edit the content, then save it back to the cloud, and you are done because it has updated. And since all you put into the LMS was a link, you're done.
Wow, that really puts the power back into the hands of the instructional designer and teacher, doesn't it?
It sure does.
I really like this, and I'm sounding like I'm selling the product, but I really like the product, and I get nothing. But at Christmas, I get a box of chocolates, which is always well received. Um, it's nice. So this gets me excited because I can also think of the many ways that one can use EPUB, and well, I'm going to talk a second. When I use Softchalk, I include my text, my video, my audios, any PowerPoints, any links out. I put it all in one place and I upload it. That's why, in my mind, that's a big time saver. Now, I'm very excited about the EPUB edition, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about it. Is it true we can press one, two buttons and create an ebook?
That's what we're planning on doing. You'll be able to take your regular Softchalk created lessons that have the video, the audio, and the interactions and make them into an electronic book. Now, and that should just be just like creating a course or creating an exec file. You'll press a couple of buttons and it then takes your content and makes it into an electronic book. Okay, really simple in concept. Now, in our first release, it will just be a single lesson that you'll be able to make into an ebook. But what we are planning in the future is you will be able to combine multiple lessons together to truly create your own electronic book
So
that's
that's
interactive.
fantastic. Now, I'm getting a little feedback, so it's kind of work on that a second, but we'll hope that goes away. One of the things I'm interested in is the EPUB, because it's a little distinguished, a little different than an ebook. If you could explain that difference, that would be great.
All right. Well, an EPUB is actually a format that is followed, and we're using EPUB 3 for our standard ebook creation. And I would like to say that every book reader follows the same standards, but they don't. Now, we chose EPUB 3 because it's supposed to be one of the more widely accepted standards. And what we're making sure of is that initially our ebook builder or EPUB that we're going to be creating will work with an iBook. Now, the way it's going to work is you will be able to, as an instructor or a designer, you'll be able to put a link in your lesson that can link to that EPUB format. The students would then just click on the link from their iBook and it would then ask them if they would like to download and place the book in their iBook reader. And then
Oh,
again, initially it's going to work with an iBook, but it may also work with other formats. We've been testing it also with a Chromebook using one of their readers, and it works pretty well in there also.
oh, that's wonderful. Can I eventually break this out then and export it in such a way that the entrepreneurs in us can sell this?
Sure.
That's absolutely very interesting. One of the things, again, putting more power in the hands of the teacher, but it's very possible that you could take all this material and put it on your own home page as well as put it up on any LMS you might be using.
Exactly. Actually, what you can do is if you do have your own homepage, you could put the links there. And what you do with those links, if you want to sell the books that you're creating, you'll be able to do that. And unlike a lot of electronic textbooks that we know, I think, go away after a year or so, if students purchase them, they're basically nothing more than an electronic version of the paper book. And we know paper books really aren't interactive. Well, most of the electronic books aren't interactive either. But you'll be able to create an interactive book for your students.
So interactive, does that mean that the students can add their own notes, develop groups with each other? The instructor can add notes, highlights? What does that mean being interactive in this case?
Well, because it is an e-book or an EPUB format, they will be able to add notes, they'll be able to highlight, but that's all from the book reader itself. In terms of creating groups, again, that's up to the book reader whether you can do that. By interactive, well, we have over 20 different activities that students can or that you can allow students to have access to in the lessons that you create, as simple as a crossword puzzle and as complex as a rollover hotspot idea. And they will still be available in the electronic books or our EPUB formats.
And one of those interactions would be perhaps quizzes. Is there a way to have the lesson evaluate or grade that lesson, that quiz?
Oh, sure. The quizzes will still be working in the electronic book, so students will be able to do a self-check, which is how we originally planned our quizzes to be, basically for student information, to let them know whether they really understood the material that was being covered. But they will still be automatically graded in our electronic books. Now, again, in our first release, we don't. It's not going to connect to any grade books in a learning management system, but again, that's maybe possible in future releases of our electronic book builder.
So this is great, and I'm very greedy for any other news you might be able to share about EPUB before we move on.
Well, right now we're still in the development and very early testing stages. Early testing stages means we don't let anybody test it but us yet, because that's the stage we're in right now.
Sure, so you'll learn more as we learn more how to use it.
Exactly.
Could we move to a sample lesson now, and perhaps you could show us some of the tools that are being used? And students in my class have seen a sample lesson or two, but very, very briefly. So now we've got the pro who's given many, many demonstrations of this, and perhaps you could just kind of walk us through a lesson.
Oh, sure. Now here I have a sample lesson. I'm going to use a math lesson because I'm a pure math major, so I like to do this every once in a while. Sorry for the people who are anti-math. I blame that on your elementary math teachers. What
Just
we
math instructors in this course.
All right, so you'll notice the look of the lesson. I've got a title up here, and you have the ability to create a title and a subtitle. The lesson is scored, and students can, any point in time, they can click on that score button and they're able to see the total number of points available and how many points they've earned. And I've also given my students the ability to print the entire contents of the lesson. Now, this lesson is paginated into a series of 5 different pages. When you print all, it then just prints it all very nicely in a nice format. I have removed navigation from my navigation bar, which is where I'm pointing right here, except for this word contents. Now this, I'm only using this as a demonstration. If this was really for my students, I would remove that contents. Now, by doing that, it forces the student to go all the way to the bottom of the page before they're able to move on to the next page. So at least I know they have to look at all of the content that I've created. Now, you also notice that there's several words here that kind of stand out. As students roll over those words, I've put in definitions behind the word, just to make sure that they've gotten it. So rather than creating a glossary, which I know never works, I put the definition behind the word. It gives them a just-in-time and in-context definition. The definitions may also include graphics or equations, as you see here. Now, as I scroll down, I see there's a video that I brought into my lesson from a streaming service rather than putting in a local video, which I think is a very bad idea and a disservice for your students, because the video has to download completely onto the student's computer before it plays in most instances on videos that you create yourself and store locally. I prefer to take them and put them into some kind of a streaming service, and that means they play much quicker. Now in this case, again, when I click on play, and I'm not going to watch the whole thing, you'll notice the gray bar, that's the download, and it's not completed downloading yet, but it's already playing. Much quicker processing time. Now I'm going to move to my last page of this lesson. to quickly get there. So I've done a lot of content building until I get to my last page, and this is where I'm trying to ask my students some questions. We've got a lot of different kinds of questions that you can ask, but in this case, I wanted to do a matching. So I match the equation down here with the graph of that equation up above. And all they have to do is choose the correct one. And so I look at B and I say, well, that doesn't intersect at all, so it must be the third one. And this first one intersects twice, so I guess that would be C. So I've now checked, I've chosen answers. I can check my answers and get a good result. Now that's a standard quiz question. You have the ability to put in true, false, multiple guess, multiple answer, short answer, matching, ordering, and even an essay. Now, what I also can do is give students the ability to score using an activity. So this is asking the same basic thing as I'd done up above, because I know solutions can be one of these three different types. I've created a card where the students would then drag and drop to put the card in the correct sorted category. And that gives you an example of a lesson. I've also created a rating so that students can roll over the stars and indicate what they think of the lesson, so that I get immediate feedback from my students into the content and the whole structure of my lesson. That's a simple example of what you can do with the Softchalk Create program.
That's pretty nice. And all these things will be able to move forward with the EPUB version that's coming out soon.
Exactly.
Could you give us a look at how you might do a media search right in the Softchalk lesson as you develop it?
Oh, sure. Let me start creating new content. Now this is going to, our Softchalk Cloud program does include the Softchalk Create program, which means you can be at any computer and start editing. It then downloads that program onto the computer, and that's what it's going through right now. You can turn off a lot of these screens that I have popping up, but I like people to see what's going on, so I keep them open. And then I'm going to run the program. Because it's coming from the internet, then all of my malware software that I have running says, are you sure you want to run this that comes from the internet? And obviously I am. And it then starts the Softchalk Create program. It's personalized for whoever you logged into the Softchalk Cloud as. And there I now am looking at my Softchalk Create screen. I get my little splash intro screen. I'll close that. Then I'm going to maximize this. And I'm going to start off by looking for some content. Well, I'm going to say that everybody's an instructional designer, so I'm going to look at a media search tool here, and I want to start my lesson off by dealing with a video, or by bringing in a video that talks about ADDIE. All right, I'm going to search one of my repositories, and you'll notice there's a whole list of repositories that include Merlot. And I'm sure, Steve, that you already have told everybody that they should become a member of Merlot.
We've talked about Merlot, not yet advocated for membership, but just as a review, could you just review what it is for us?
Yeah, Merlot is a consortium of instructors that have decided they're going to share and review content with one another. In its basic ideas, that's what it is. So it is a peer review and peer sharing, not repository, but referatory. And some of the content that they share, we're actually going to store in our Softchalk cloud repository, which is really a nice thing. All right, so I'm going to then scroll down here, make sure that I have YouTube selected. Notice some of the other locations. We have Flickr, and this is the Orange Grove Wikipedia. These are only some of them. I can actually add more repositories to my search if I would like to. You will notice that one of the repositories you can search in is the Softchalk cloud. Pretty cool. Well, I'm going to do a search. It's then found that content. I could then select the video that I want to use. I can go to this details screen, and this allows me to actually watch the video before I put it into my lesson. And then I can just insert it into my lesson. And it's now there as a widget, ready for my students to view. I could then start building a lot of content around that. I can ask questions about the video if I would like to. It's now up to me on what I want to do next.
What's nice about this is it's a very easy tool to use above our tools that are very common to use on the upper level there. And so that's one of the nice things, the part of the making it not a tough learning curve.
Right. We really think the learning curve is, maybe a half hour.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you, but I did go through a lot of your lessons, your tutorials, and I'm always picking up things, and I just picked up that you could add more repositories. At least was reminded that you could do it, and so I appreciate that. And one of the things I want to ask you as we move forward with this video is that you can make it 508 compliance.
We can, and actually not just video, but I'm also going to insert another object here. I'm going to be inserting another media object. I'm going to use an audio file also, and I'll explain that screen that I very quickly went over in just a couple of seconds. So I've now picked the audio that I want to bring into my lesson. Now I'm going to make this an inline player. When I do that, it activates this box down below, which gives me now the ability to enter the script for the audio file. So I'm just going to type in, this is the script of the audio. And I would type in the whole script for my students. I'll then click OK, and what I've just done is I have now made that audio file accessible for my hearing disabled students. If I would do the same thing and bring in a graphic file, and I'll just bring in a simple one here. There we go. So I've now brought in a graphic file, and this is going to be the ADDIE model. In another lifetime, I became an instructional designer and a distance education person. And this then, we were all familiar with what the alt tag does, and that's what our alternative text is. I like to just put in the title there. And then down below, this is where I can put in a long description, which makes it accessible for my visually disabled students because it will then read that long description if they have a screen reader. So we do try to become as accessible a content provider as we can be. And there's our graphic. Now I'm going to modify that just a little bit by putting a border around it. And that, I think, makes it look a little bit nicer. So we've now put in 3 different kinds of items. I guess I should show one more. I'm going to bring in a simple activity, a very simple little drag and drop activity, where I'm going to have the students match terms with definitions. Now, because I'm not the greatest typist in the world, I'm just going to bring in a text file. I also can assign a point value to this. And notice this area here to describe the activity for use with a screen reader. That's to add more alternative content for students who have a visual disability. But I'm just going to leave it blank, and I'll then do an OK. Now I'm going to preview all of this and save my changes just to see what it all looks like. And there's the video that I just brought in, ready for my students to use. I'm hoping that whoever created the video made it closed captioned. If they didn't, then I have the ability to actually type in additional content In the video creation area, and I'll come back to that right here, I can modify that widget and add a description of the video to make it more accessible for my visually and hearing disabled students. Then when we come back into the lesson itself, which is what I'm now previewing, here's our audio file. This is our alternative accessibility key that I can click on and be able to read the text of the script of the file that's being spoken. And then there's our graphic, which really I can't show accessibility because it's going to be done by a screen reader. And then finally, here's the activity. And this is something we really like. It automatically created an alternative text for the visually disabled students. So we're creating alternatives pretty nicely and pretty all the time with all of the activities. Our text poppers and quiz questions are also going to be accessible to our disabled students.
Now, one of the things that I want to add is that there is a repository that many instructors have fed into with these learning objects, and those that are public can be shared and inserted into the course very easily. Uh, just as an aside to my aside, I used to teach College for Kids program. That's from first to sixth graders, and I had fourth through sixth graders. And a couple summers, we actually used Softchalk because they wanted to learn about how to use computers, and we used Softchalk as a way to do that. And the fourth through sixth graders picked it up very quickly.
And yeah, we really, we have a lot of people using it, and they're saying, well, can I let my students use it? And the answer is sure. Students can use this as opposed to, and create projects, as opposed to a PowerPoint slide deck. They can use our program and bring in a lot of other interactive elements for the project that they're creating, and they find that to be much more fun than just creating picture after picture or slide after slide.
What we did was we used the 30-day option as a free trial, and certainly encourage all the students in the course to do that, because that might lead to other uses of it for you.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming maybe you're going to some of those learning objects just to see what other people have created?
Well, we have lots of different ones, and what we can do, and I'm just going to go to our share repository, and all I have to do is get to this share repository screen and then click on it, and it takes us to our search area where you can search by content items. So you can just type in some keywords. You can also have it search by subject, by grade level, and even by content type. Learning objects, that would be like an activity or a group of quiz questions. We can also search by lessons and by courses. So if I clicked here and I then wanted to look for, we'll say, instructional design.
You're speaking to the right group here in this class.
And I'm always I never know what I'm going to get here because people can add content anytime they want. And then I'll click on the search button, and it's now found 85 content items, and that could be any type. It can be, as we see here, we've got a lesson, instructional design basics. Wow, we've got quite a lot of lessons that are here as I scroll through them. Now, if I look at one of them, and I'll just pick this first one, it shows me exactly what that particular lesson is going to look like. Really pretty nice. Now, what that means is if I now scroll down below, and this is actually an active lesson, so I can point and click and get to that particular topic of the lesson. There we go. I'm not sure what's in here, but all kind of good stuff. Looks like they're using an activity. This is our photo album where you can just click on each page and go from page to page to page. And if you like the lesson, then you can actually capture this hyperlink or the embed code and use it in your course. Well, you can actually go a little bit further because if you wanted to, you could use our media search tool and look for instructional design, have it search the Softchalk cloud, which is where our repository lives, and in just a couple of seconds it's going to show me the same results that we saw when we used our search through the cloud. You can then select that lesson and you can insert it as a widget directly into the cloud, into your lesson, or if you wanted to, you actually have the ability to open it within our or inside of your own Softchalk Create program so you can start editing. Wow. Well, I'm just going to, the current thing I'm not going to save, I'll just make it go away. So what this is now doing is it's downloading that lesson, anything that's placed in the Softchalk cloud as a public lesson is part of Creative Commons. So we know that we can then use that content. We just have to give credit for where it came from. So it's now downloading that content. That may take a couple of seconds because I see it's a kind of a large lesson here.
And other instructors are willing to share their lessons like this. And if you look down that right-hand corner, you'll see that CC that tells you that it's public and available for use. With that, we've studied a little bit. What are the limitations? Can we add our own materials?
Sure. If you wanted to, well, it all depends on the Creative Commons licensing that's going to be applied. So if I would click on that Creative Commons licensing, it's saying attribution share alike. So they're saying that you can use this, you can do whatever you want to, you can remix it, you can transform it, but what they would like you to do is to share the changes that you've made.
Okay, so there it is, and that's really nice to know where to find this. We've learned about Creative Commons, but it gives us a little more information about what's expected of us if we use that lesson.
And there's the lesson ready for us to start editing. Now, what you may want to do, they're using a particular style. You may want to brand that to your own style, and you can do that really easily. I've created a custom or my own personal style that I'm going to use, or I'm actually a custom style here. So I'm going to make it look like a Softchalk lesson. And now when I preview it, it's going to show, and I'll give this a name. And now it looks like I took a lot of time and created all of this content. Something that I didn't mention that I really should, and when I go to the bottom of this page, it always reminds me, not only have I just created this content for a computer, but it also in the background creates content for mobile devices. And there's nothing extra or special that I have to do.
So I can play this on my phone, my tablets, whatever.
Right. And it's going to be formatted for that device.
So you've been very, very kind to show us all these materials. We're kind of getting closer to the end here. And I'm wondering, as I mentioned earlier, I have the honor of being one of the judges of the Lesson Challenge, an annual contest of very creative instructors. And boy, I think that it should go any deeper, could go deeper than the list of winners because there's a lot of great lessons out there to look at that never get seen. Could you just take us to maybe a contest winner? The point of this is to show students that these lessons are available and can be looked at for ideas.
Yeah, we can go to the Softchalk website. So I just go to softchalk.com, and we then can go into the showcase area where you'll see challenge and winners. And I can just select that, and we're thanking people for submitting. And if you would like to see lessons that have won in the past, let's go to last year. We could just click on that. And here we have a lesson, first place. I then have the ability to select that lesson title, and I get ideas. I can preview this lesson. Now, I can't use it because more than likely it is not part of the Creative Commons collection. But I can now start previewing it and seeing what they have done in their lesson. And they've added some audio files, some graphic files, I'm hoping, as well as quite a lot of other content. So we can get ideas on design and how they have created their content to help us when we're trying to create our own content. And we can keep going back to here and looking at other challenge winners, I guess right here. And I can then just scroll down and look at other things that other people have done. Some of these lessons may be shareable, but some of them may not be. And it's up to the individual instructor what they would like to do.
And even if they are shareable, when I have taken materials and used them in a course, one of the things that I do is try to contact or make sure I contact the authors, designers, just to say I'm interested in this. It does say I could use it, but I want your permissions. And that signals to them again that someone out there is going to put it into a course. So I just kind of try to take one more step. When they respond, I take that as a receipt of a blessing for doing that.
Well, I like to do that for several reasons, not just to be courteous to the author, but also to give them feedback that says, yes, your content is good. Because as an author of content, I really like to get that back. And if I make it in, put it in Creative Commons, I never hear from people mostly, but it's nice to every once in a while get that kind of information back to me.
Yes, because you do see people are using it and you're wondering about it. I do have the, like I said, the prestige of saying I've been a judge, and I think that adds to the feedback that it's good to somebody. After I do judge contests and I see the winners, I try to write and congratulate them. So it's a very, very nice thing. One of the things I noticed as you open up a previous lesson was the sidebar. And not all the lessons we've looked at have sidebars. The sidebar is a way that you can put handouts in. Some of these videos, audios, links. It's a very powerful little thing where you can put in lots of stuff. You can turn that on and turn it off.
And this person has actually even created an audio section of the sidebar where people can then click on it and listen to it. Now, you saw that in the lesson that I was creating also, and that's an extra tool that we have. You can subscribe to, and it really helps low read or slow read students. So I'm going to click on this listen, and
Oh, the listen button.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
Yeah, and that is a button that I had in my lessons. And if I go back to one that I had created, what this will do, if I had any text here, it's not going to do well with my graphic items, but when the students click on this, it will generate an audio file of the text on the fly. Now it's giving
Uh,
me an error because I don't have any text to read, but it will then start reading that to the students. Really a handy idea for low read or slow read students.
another little element that you thought of, and it's obvious that you do have that instructional designer background.
I try.
Uh, I should say, I don't know if we said it. Maybe you did at the outset, but Softchalk's located in Richmond, Virginia, and been going, like you said, 13 years. Anything else that we should know about Softchalk? You've been very generous in your time with us today, David.
Well, I can't think of it. Well, there's a lot more, but we could spend the next, or I can spend the next couple of hours talking about Softchalk Create in the cloud. But uh, people get tired of listening to me, so
Oh, yeah. If any students or any instructors want to listen more, they do have tutorials about it. You could get on and get a 30-day trial to try it out. If you go to an institution that's using it, you might have that leg up on it. It's been a very good to me, so to speak, and uh, I've enjoyed this time with you today, David, and we'll sign off in just a minute. Give you a chance to say the last word.
okay, well, thanks everybody. I hope you see our product and say, wow, it looks like it's very simple to use, yet an extremely powerful tool. And that's what we tried to create in our initial thoughts many years ago. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, David, and I'm going to close the recording in just a second.